Hello everyone. So welcome to a new lecture of theory of columns. So our columns are basically compression members. Okay. So if I talk about columns, column is a compression member subjected to predominantly axial loading. Okay. So on your column, generally it is under your compression load. Okay. Now if we talk about your like mode of failure of columns, so there are three mode of failure of columns. Okay. First one is your crushing or yielding. Second one is buckling or elastic instability. Okay. Third one is your combined, like both crushing and buckling. Okay. So your crushing generally happens in your short columns. Now we will like see what is definition of short columns and long columns in like further this chapter. Okay. Now your buckling happens in your long columns. Okay. And this generally happens in your intermediate or medium columns. Intermediate columns. Okay. Now if I talk about your let's say instead what is your elastic instability or critical what is your inelastic instability, like I am talking here. Okay. Or buckling. So let's consider a system first. Okay. So let me consider a system here. We will look into your elastic instability. Okay. But before this, let's first talk about your types of equilibrium. Okay. So there are three types of equilibrium. First one is your stable equilibrium. Second one is neutral equilibrium, and third one is your unstable equilibrium. Unstable equilibrium. Okay. Now if I talk about your stable equilibrium, so in case of your stable equilibrium, your restoring moment is greater than overturning moment. Okay. Restoring moment, this is your restoring moment, and this is your overturning moment. Okay. And I can also show it like this. let's consider a bowl like this, okay, and it is, let's say, fixed, okay, and the ball is kept inside the bowl, okay. Now this ball will be in your stable equilibrium. Let's say that it moves, we move the ball somewhere here. So at this point what will happen, we have applied some overturning moment, okay, but there is some restoring moment acting due to your weight of the ball, okay. And the moment we like removed the overturning your overturning moment, or your overturning moment becomes less than that of your restoring moment, in that case what happens, the ball moves back to its initial location, okay. So this is your stable equilibrium, okay. Now if we talk about neutral equilibrium, in case of neutral equilibrium, your moment of restoring moment is equal to overturning moment, okay. And this stage is also called as your critical stage. This stage is also called it critical stage, okay. And corresponding load to this state will be your critical load. This can be shown like this. Let's say this is your plane, okay. Of course it is fixed, okay, and a ball is kept. So irrespective of where you move the ball, it will always remain there only, okay. There won't be any movement. So this is your neutral equilibrium. Now if you talk about unstable equilibrium, so what happens in the unstable equilibrium is that your restoring moment is less than that of overturning moment. Like let's talk about that. There is upside down bowl, okay, and of course fixed one side, okay, and let's say a ball is kept on this, okay. Now if you move ball from here, displace ball from here, what will happen, like let's say we bring the ball here, okay. Now we have like applied the overturning moment in this direction, okay. Now due to weight of the ball, and like your resting moment is also acting in the same direction, okay. Or might be like let's say even if your like resting moment is acting in opposite direction, then also its magnitude is less than that of your overturning moment. In such cases what happens, like your this ball will continue to fall in downward the plane, okay. So these are the types of equilibrium, okay. Now we will start on elastic instability and critical load. Okay, so let's consider a system, okay. So let's consider an column here. So let's say this is a column, okay. It is hinged at a point, it is hinged here, okay, and at this point there is a spring attached to it. There is a spring attached to it, and another like end of the string is fixed, okay. Let's say K is the thickness of the spring, okay. Let's say this point is A, L is the length of your column, and this upper point is B, okay. Or let me write here, okay. Now let's say that a load P is applied, on the bar, on the column, okay. So under this effect of load, what will happen, like our bar will tilt, okay. Our bar will tilt in this direction. Let's say in any direction bar will tilt, okay. Let me draw a midline here, okay, like this, okay. So what will happen, our bar will tilt, let's say in this direction at an angle theta, okay. And this is the displacement that is created here, okay. Now if I draw the free body diagram, let's say for both positions, so it should be something like this. So here it is, here is the spring, okay. And if you talk about your column, so let me draw it here, okay. Okay, so let's say this is your column. Okay, now of course there is a hinge here. Okay, and this angle is theta. Okay, and load P is acting here. P is acting here. Okay, and this deflection is your delta. Okay, and your force is acting in this direction, that is your spring force Fs, and similarly that spring force is also acting in this direction, that is your Fs. Okay, so we know we can write Fs is equal to K into delta x or K into delta, so denote delta x, K into delta. Okay, this is your spring force. Okay, so we can write that. Okay, so let me make some more space here. Okay, so if I talk about your restoring moment, so what do you think is the restoring moment here? This spring force will act as a restoring force. Okay, and moment will be your Fs into L. Okay, and why distance L? Because this deflection will be very small. Okay, this distance will nearly remain same. So we can write Fs is equal to K into delta into L. Okay, now we can also write your overturning moment. M overturning is equal to, overturning moment will be due to your load P. Okay, and this moment will be P into distance from your A. Okay, and this distance is your delta, so P into delta. Now we know that for your stable equilibrium, or sorry, for your neutral equilibrium, what should happen? Your like if we talk about critical stage, for critical stage, what we can write? We can write that Mr is equal to M overturning. Okay, and Mr is your P delta. P delta is equal to KL into delta. So from here I can actually write this P as pre-critical. Okay, so from here I can write P critical. Let me add a more page. So P critical is equal to KL. Okay, and from here what we can write? Okay, from here we can like infer few conditions. If your P is greater than P critical, that will be your unstable equilibrium. From here we can also that your MR is less than your MOT. Okay, because at MR we have P critical, so this is unstable. P is equal to P critical is your neutral equilibrium. And P is less than that of P critical is your stable equilibrium. Okay, so like this type of question is also asked in your examinations. Calculate the critical load on your there might be some extra springs attached to this column. Okay, and you have to solve this. Okay, now moving to next topic. Now we will start our next topic, that is Euler's theory. Euler's theory for buckling load. Buckling load. So, according to your Euler theory, according to Euler's theory, long columns fail, or long columns fail in buckling only. Buckling only. This theory neglects the effect of direct shear stress, direct shear stress induced in a long column compared to bending stress. Okay, so Euler theory, there are 2 points. First point is it only applicable for your long columns, okay, because long columns only fail due to buckling, and Euler's theory is for buckling load only, okay. And according to Euler theory, the effect due to your direct shear stress is neglected. So direct stress is neglected, not shear stress, okay. Direct stress induced is neglected, okay, because in long columns the key stress is your bending stress, okay. Now if I talk about some assumptions of your Euler theory, assumptions. So first one is material should be homogeneous and linear isotropic, homogeneous, isotropic and linear elastic, okay, in which your Hooke's law is stress is direct proportional to strain. Hooke's law is valid, okay. Now the second is column is slender, so the slender mean length is large compared to cross section dimension, okay. The third point is column is long and prismatic. It means that your that is your EI is constant. Fourth point, if we talk about axis of column is perfectly straight when load passes through centroid of cross section, okay. Fifth point, if we talk about column, should be your axially loaded. Axially loaded. Sixth point is fails only in buckling. Fails only in buckling, that is your elastic bending. Elastic bending. Okay. Seventh is self weight is neglected. So these seven are assumptions of your Euler theory. Okay. Now let's consider a column. Let's consider a column. Let me draw it here. Let's say that there are two supports. This is a fixed support here. I mean, both are hinge support here. Okay, like this. Okay, and originally it should be like this. Okay, but due to like a loading, it takes this form. Okay, let's say that a load P is acting on the column, due to which your column bends. Okay, now let's say that at a distance x from the top, let's say at this point x distance, the deflection of the beam is y. Okay, so we can write that moment at x is equal to minus py. So from here I can write ei times of d2y by dx2 is equal to minus py. So d2y by dx2 plus py by ei is equal to 0. This is our differential equation. Okay, now if we like solve this, so solution of this differential equation will be given by y is equal to c1 cos of root p by ei times of x. Okay, plus c2 times of sine of root of p by ei times of x. This is your solution. Now if we apply boundary conditions, then at x is equal to 0 we can say that y is equal to 0. Okay, from here we will obtain like if you put x is equal to 0 both places, so we will obtain c1 is equal to 0. Okay, and at x is equal to L, your y is equal to 0. Okay, if we substitute this, so we will obtain sine root p by ei times of L is equal to 0. So this is your equation. So from here we can know that sine is 0 when your value is n pi. So your L times of root p by ei value should be equal to your n pi. So from here we have obtained our equation for buckling, and that is p is equal to, if we solve this, so we will obtain it as n square pi square ei upon L square. Okay, so this is your Euler's critical load. This is your Euler's critical load for your buckling long columns. Okay, now from here what else we can we see the term n. So n here represent number of buckling loops. I will describe this further in your next topics. Okay, so what does your number of buckling loop mean? Okay, now if we, so like there is n pi. Okay, so we also write p is equal to pi square ei upon le square. Okay, or p critical I can write it is okay. Now here le is equal to first see le is equal to your l upon n. Okay, and this le is your effective length of column. Okay, now let's talk about the effective length, and I talk about number of buckling loops. Okay, so so there are different, there might be different scenarios which are acting which is applied on your column. Okay, so let me draw. They are basically in standard, there are 4 types of conditions, end conditions. Okay, now these are the 4 end conditions that are generally applied to our beam, or sorry, column. Okay, and the first one is both ends hinge on both end, one end hinged and other end fixed. Okay, both end fixed and one end is fixed and other end is free. Let's say that the initial length of the beam is your L. This is your undeformed length of the beam. Okay, now if I want to write your equivalent length for this LE for these 4 conditions, so I can write my equivalent length LE is equal to, for this case there is only one loop from here to here. Okay, so this will be your L is equal to L, this will be equal to L. Okay, if I talk about this point, from this point to this point there is single curvature, and the curvature changes after this point. So up to here, this is our LE, this length is our LE, and is equal to L by root 2, L upon root 2. Okay, and if you talk about this, so from here to till here, this point, this is our equivalent length LE. Okay, and in this case it is L by 2. Okay, and if we talk about this case, so this loop is starting from here and it will be like up same in opposite direction up to this point. Okay, so here we write equivalent length as 2L. Okay, now in some books what happens that your equivalent load, or I mean Euler load or buckling load is given by, so let me write it here, buckling load P is equal to pi square EI upon LE square, and this is equal to n times of pi square EI by L square. Okay, now initially in this expression we have n square here. Now in some books it is mentioned as n. Okay, now this n is actually, if I talk about the terms here, so this n is actually end fixity coefficient. Okay, and there is another term introduced, that is your alpha, and this alpha is your length fixity coefficient, where your LE is written as, your n is equal to 1 by alpha square. So we can also write here from here our LE is equal to alpha times of L. Okay, so in this table, if we talk about our values of n, or let's talk about alpha, that we have talked. So alpha is equal to, alpha value will be here 1, here 1 by root 2, and here 1 by 2, here 2. Okay, and you can also calculate your end fixity coefficient if it is asked. Okay, now next important topic is your slenderness ratio. Let me start it here. Slenderness ratio. Okay, so it is denoted by your S, or is also mentioned at lambda. Okay, so your slenderness ratio S is defined as ratio of effective length upon radius of gyration, or let me mention it here. Effective column length and your radius of gyration and of course it is like least value. Okay, now like we also mentioned, generally your radius of gyration is k. Okay, so your S is equal to LE by K. This is your relation for slenderness ratio. Now we know that how to calculate your K. So we know that I minimum is equal to area times of K square. So K is equal to root of I minimum upon area. Okay, now if I want to calculate your like critical stress, so I can write that my critical stress, or if I talk about Euler stress, so I can write as your sigma E is equal to P by A. Okay, and if I write the value of PE here, so it is your pi square EI minimum upon area, sorry, L square into area. Now this I minimum upon area is known as your K square. Okay, so I can write it is equal to pi square E by LE square into K square. Now we know that LE by K is known as your slender ratio, so we can write that our Euler stress or critical stress is given by P upon A and can be written as pi square E upon S square. This is your relation for like your stress, critical stress in terms of your slender ratio. Okay, now this slender ratio is basically used, this is used, or not this slender ratio is basically used to compare critical load, critical load or buckling load, critical or buckling load of different columns, which are of course made of your same materials and have the same ratio. Okay, now if I talk about for a given material, for given material and area of cross section, okay, for a material, let's say our given area. Okay, So if you slender is so we can from here what we can write, we can write that our bending stress is your or we can also call it critical load is proportional to or inversely proportional to square of slender ratio. Okay, so from here what we can say, if your slender ratio value is high, it means that your P like critical load is low. Okay, it means that buckling tendency is high. Okay, okay, and if your S is low, then it means that your critical load is high. If your critical load is high, then it means that your buckling tendency is high, sorry, low. Okay, so lower the value of your slenderness ratio, the more favorable the column is to our conditions. Okay, now if I talk about your graph between your sigma E and slenderness ratio S. Okay, so let me draw the axis here. So let's say that this is the axis of your for your bending stress, that is sigma E. Okay, and this axis is for your slenderness ratio, that is S. Okay, so curves come out to be something like this. Okay, and this is your hyperbolic asymptotic this is your Euler failure curve. Okay, and there of course like this is your sigma C and also known as your crushing stress. Okay, and of course there are certain regions here, so let's talk about all the regions one by one. So this is the region A, this is the region B, and this is the region C. Okay, so if I talk about region A, so region A is safe for short columns. Okay, and of course this point is our like slender ratio, minimum value of slender ratio up to which after which we can apply your Euler failure mode. Okay, and is also your S critical. Okay, so A is safe for short columns, B region is your safe for long columns. Okay, and C region is unsafe short or unsafe long columns, and this is also your buckling failure. And this region D, let's say this region is our D. Okay, and region D is our unsafe for short columns, and this is your crushing failure. Okay, and moving to next topic is our Rankine's Gordon theory. So what does this theory says? This theory says that we know that your short columns fail in crushing and long columns fail in your buckling. But in practice, your columns fail due to combined effect of crushing and buckling. So this theory, the Euler theory, assumed that the columns fails only due to your buckling, neglecting the crushing mode of failure. Now this Rankine-Gordon theory, you consider both effects. So it tells us that the critical load or your Rankine load P, or we can also write it as PR, Rankine load, is equal to 1 upon P crushing load plus 1 upon P Euler. Combining the both effect of both load, we get our Rankine load. And this theory is also applicable in case of your medium columns. Okay. Now in your strength of materials, we generally deal with your steel columns. Okay. So for steel columns, if you talk about, so here I have mentioned crushing, yielding, a long column, short column, and both crushing and yielding. Okay, so let mention it here only. Okay, so if I talk about for steel columns, like there are of course 3 types of column possible. Okay, so first one is your long column, the second one is your medium or intermediate column, okay, also known as intermediate column. Third one is your short column. Okay, so now if I talk about slenderness ratio for these columns, so your S value for short column, your S is generally less than equal to 30. Okay, and if S is between 30 to 100, it is known as your medium column, and if S is greater than equal to 100, then it is your considered as long column. Okay, and this is valid for your steel columns only, because your slenderness ratio is dependent on your Young modulus, and basically Young modulus. Okay, and Young modulus for your steel, we have used steel to calculate these values. Okay, now one more thing, like you may say that your where is it, slenderness ratio is your L by K. Okay, is independent of V, but for for a given material, we don't know the value of LE. The LE value, effective length, may vary depending on the length of column. So we use this equation here, stress. We know that okay, so let me mention few more points here. Okay, so now if we talk about your long columns, so your induced stress, sigma induced, must be less than equal to your sigma yield stress. Okay, or basically your proportional limit up to your proportional limit, or your elastic limit. Okay, sigma your up to your elastic limit or proportional limit. Okay, up to this point only we will consider it. Okay, now your sigma induced is basically your sigma Euler rod, that is your pi square E by S square. This is your stress, Euler stress. Okay, and this must be less than equal to your elastic limit. Okay, so using this condition, we can calculate our slenderness ratio for long columns. Okay, and if we talk about your short columns, so for short columns, we can again again it will be same, sigma induced must be your less than equal to your sigma y in compression, elutions in compression. Okay, now from here we can write, now if we consider your like Euler load only, so from here we can write sigma square E by S square, it must be less than equal to your SYC. Sorry about it. So like sigma induced must be greater than your this sigma YC. Okay, so here it should be like this. Okay, now we can like substitute the values here and calculate our slenderness ratio values. Now after this, one more topic I would like to discuss, that your load on the column may be your eccentric loading. Okay, so for columns with eccentric loading, so let's say this is your column, this here is your column, and this column like this is your center line. Okay, so let me this is a column. Okay, and here it is your center line, it is your center line. Okay, let me copy this, or like let's fix this, let's say this. Okay, we don't need to fix this, so let's say that we have considered an like element at some mid span. Okay, okay, and we will be using this here copy. Okay, so let's say that initially the figure is loaded in such a way that a load P is applied, and it is at an eccentric distance E. Okay, so what can be done here, like this can be distributed in two forms. First is your load P is applied here, plus a moment M is applied, and the magnitude of this moment M is equal to P times of E. Okay, now we will solve both of these individually, and we will calculate our load. Okay, for individual and add them. Okay, now depending on this value of E, like here if we see, so let's say due to this there will always be a crushing load, there is always be a crushing load, negative load, and due to the presence of your like movement, there will both tensile and compressive load. Okay, now so there must be a movement, like if we add both of these terms here, so we will obtain obtain the resultant. Okay, but there must be a condition, there must be a value of E up to which it should be limited, such that there is no tension in your column. Okay, like because your column should always be in compression. Now because due to presence of this tensile stress, if you combine them, there might be a chance that due to the large value of movement, there might be a net tensile effect, tensile stress acting at some point, so we have to remove that. Okay, so what we can do, we know that your crushing like let's say this is your direct stress sigma D, and this is the bending stress sigma B. Okay, so we can say that for sigma minimum to be greater than equal to 0, what we can write here, we can write that sigma direct minus sigma bending must be greater than equal to 0. Now sigma direct I can write it as P by A minus sigma bending, what I can write M by I. M is our PE upon Y is our D by 2, or M by basically I can write Z. Okay, so this will be our 6 PE by dB square. Okay, and area I can write it as BD. Okay, greater than equal to 0. Now from here what I can write that my E value, so middle third rule, what does it state? So this the middle third rule states that the area through which load must pass without causing tension in column is called kern or core. Okay, and this rule is called as your middle third rule. So it should be like this. Okay, so inside this region, if your load is applied, then your there will be no tensile stress in your rectangular section. For this is for rectangular section. Now similarly, there is also a middle fourth rule. Middle fourth rule, it is for your circular sections. So for no tension in circular section, your E must be less than equal to D by 8. Okay, D by 8. So if I talk about, so this distance is our B by 3 and this distance is our D by 3. Okay, so if there is circular section, so this core have the dimension of D by 4. So this is called the middle fourth rule. Okay, now similarly this thing may happen in your in both, like here we have considered only one axis, we have considered our load acting on this plane. Okay, now this may happen your somewhere here load may be applied. So in that case you will consider bending moment about both end x and y axis. Okay, and you will calculate your resultant stress. Okay, so with this we will concluding our chapter theories of column. Okay, so thank you.